know it's been a little while since I've got my last video up. I've actually been doing a lot of work on the Toyota, but I've been doing a piss poor job of actually getting it videoed and edited and all that stuff. So here we go. We're going to talk about what I've done and what needs to be done, and a few things, maybe a few little tips, and you know, just general information. As much as I really think I should build a new engine for it, it's hard to justify when you have an engine that just sits here and purrs like this. So I'm gonna try to figure out what we're gonna do. Just finally put the hubs back on it, so the drive flanges, drove it around the block. Of course, it's not a giant powerhouse, but it goes around the block pretty well. This thing just sits there and purrs. I mean, it's so hard to think that we should build a new engine, which I started to, and we still might. We've got another 22 already ripped apart in the back, and trying to make some decisions here. All right, since the last video on this truck, I have went back to the stock air intake. As you can see here, the other intake that was on it that I had, where it been around to this back corner where the charcoal canister is. The original plan for that was I was going to cut for fender clearance to make more room for the tires, but I've decided I'm probably never going to do that. So we went back to the stock air box, stock air filter, which actually has, if you can see it right there, that's where the fresh air comes in. So it's actually true cold air, and like, you know, under the hood where it's getting hot air all the time. Also relocated the battery back to the front so it has less of a run, and I have more front weight for better climbing. So that's up here. And I got the proper hoses for the PCV and the breather hose now. Now, when it comes to the engine, we have decided that we're going to reseal this engine, put new rod bearings back in it again, maybe main bearings, but mainly keep it from leaking, and have a new camshaft for it that we're going to try, which is a old engine builder grind. If you're familiar with them, but Redline Cams has it. It's their 261 crawler cam. It's got a little chop at idle from what I can tell, but the power range is supposed to be better than the stock cam, so we'll see how that goes. I've also started to take a measurement to get a new rear drive shaft made for the truck, which is kind of unique. It's a 1410 at the axle from the Dana 70, and currently has a Toyota flange on the back of a Dana 300, which is a Jeep transfer case. After talking to a few different drive shaft places, we've determined that it'd probably be easier and cheaper to convert it to a 1310 CV, which is what this yoke is right here, CV style yoke, and use a 1310 CV to a 1410 slip for the rear axle. Quigley's actually going to build a drive shaft for me. They gave me a pretty good deal on one, so we're going to try them out for this one too, just like we did on the GMC. And we should have a drive shaft that doesn't vibrate when we're going down the road to 60. This one actually isn't bad, but it's just plain wore out. I mean, it's not good. If you can, I don't know, you can probably see the movement, but it's not the best. And I just hacked this together myself. Matter of fact, if you look, it's actually welded in the middle. That's a Toyota drive shaft slid inside of a, I think, Ford drive shaft and then welded together, which worked great for the trail, but on the road, it's a little sketchy. I've also made the speedometer finally work in this truck. So this truck's new enough, has an electronic speedometer, and it went in the factory Toyota case and spun it. Well, after some research, I found that Advanced Adapters sells this kit for an Atlas in a Toyota. Basically what it is, it's a speedometer cable that goes and converts it up there to that into a Toyota metric, and then this Toyota speed sensor screws into it and it plugs in. I haven't fastened this up yet. I'm going to keep it from flopping around. I just put it in there to see if it works. And I put the largest speedometer gear I could find, which I believe was a 43. Math says I need a 45, but they're damn near impossible to find, or they're super expensive. But the speedometer is off by about 10%, which I can live with that. That's pretty damn close considering everything that's not exactly stock. If anybody's wondering why the Dana 300 in a Toyota, I got a couple of reasons. One, the 300 is stronger than a Toyota case, even though Toyota guys will tell you that, oh, the Toyota case is oh so great. And I have the ability to do front dig, which the Toyota case cannot do. And I also have the case, so there's that also. But to do that, you buy a kit from Advanced Adapters to put an Atlas behind a Toyota crawl box, because an Atlas and a Dana 300 is pretty close to the same physically. So that's what we have. We have a crawl box with a kit from Advanced Adapters and then a Dana 300 behind it, which gives me front dig, bigger shafts, and a slightly lower low range than a stock Toyota case. Right now the interior is a complete mess, but it's better than it was. So another thing I did, which I probably should have videoed, is I covered these door panels in like speaker cabinet carpet. And vinyl would have been better. I'm gonna not deny that, but I had this carpet and I already had some Super 77 spray, which is the contact adhesive. So we have speaker cabinet carpet on, which eventually up here, I'm sure it's gonna get nasty. Also have new door handles and window cranks, so I can actually crank the windows up and down easily. I fixed the volt gauge in the dash. It was not working, and well, I should have videoed that too to show you how to actually troubleshoot it, and the gauge itself was bad. I also spent a whopping $30 on eBay and got this new upper dash piece, which fits okay. I'm not going to tell you it's great, but it's better than it was, because that piece was missing and there's a giant gaping hole without it. So that's all on there. And I'm going to eventually, I think, remount the cable shifters for the 300 a little differently and reroute the cables. And eventually also probably put a vinyl floor in this thing, because, you know, if you're going to drive this for a trip, you don't want it completely bare bones. And you see all the parts and pieces and heater hoses and everything else that goes in this truck. So we're working on it. We're getting there. Oh, and the seats, in case you're wondering, they're Honda Civic seats from about the same era, like early 90s Honda Civic seats. They almost bolt into these trucks. Just a little tip for you. Now you're probably asking, what do I really have left to do? A lot. I have a bent aluminum tie rod, and yes, you can bend them. So I might try to straighten it, or at least adjust the toe correctly. I have a bent steering cylinder. I'm going to attempt to straighten it. I don't know how much to lose there. I want to redo the shock mounts on the frame because they're kind of bobo. That's the leftovers when I had leaf springs under it and I never cut it off, and I need to brace those frame plates up better. I'm going to do that and probably tilt the spring mounts. I'm going to do all that when the engine's out. When it's out, I can get into here and actually do what I need to do. And speaking of engines, that's the next major hurdle. I got to pull it. We're going to go through it, reseal it and all that, like I said earlier. And I don't know if you can see down there. Oh, not on this side. We'll try over here and see you see it. You can see it there with all the gazillion wires that need to be cleaned up. Those are poly transmission mounts for a GM, universal GM poly mounts. That is a way cheaper way to put quote-unquote bomb-proof motor mounts in a Toyota. They line right up. So this little tech tip for you. Oh, and also that's a Ford oil filter. They'll screw right on these and they hold more oil. I'm sure there's arguments in Toyota world about that, but whatever. I'm using that, and that's what I'm going to keep using. So that's kind of where we're at. I got all that to do. Of course, I'm going to change the oil and all the transmissions and the rear end and stuff in it. New spring bushings for the rear springs. And then we're going to start driving it and find out what's the matter with it, which I'm sure things are going to come up. It'll be interesting to see how it does on the road. But that's currently where we're at on this thing. So if you have any more questions about it, go ahead and ask. I'll tell you about it. There's some subpar fabrication on here because sometimes I get in a hurry on stuff to get it done, and I did when I did the 3-link on here. But a lot of people probably think I'm crazy taking basically a trailered trail rig and putting it back on the road. But I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. But that's about it, guys. Sorry I didn't keep up better videos because I probably could have made a couple of nice, decent videos with a few things I've done. I'm going to try to do it when I pull the engine and actually take it apart. So, thanks for watching. See you later. For you, I have my stepson's Cadillac. We're going to try to clean it up a little bit before we take it back to him. He recently moved and we were holding it down here for him until he got everything situated. But we're going to try to wash it and maybe put some wax on it because it needs it. We were playing around with wax earlier in a couple of spots and it cleaned up pretty good. So we're gonna give it a good bath. Cadillac's all washed, waxed, and all the chrome and stainless is cleaned up on it. It's not perfect, but it's really nice. All original car, original paint, documented 60-some thousand mile car. Not a bad car. He's thinking about getting rid of it, but we'll see what he ultimately ends up doing. But it's definitely not a bad car. 76, 500 Cadillac. All the bells and whistles, of course. And drives pretty good. Could use some tires. They're getting a little old. Could probably use a front end alignment. But nothing crazy. Well, it's a pretty nice little car. But, I thought I'd throw that in there at the end just to give you all something else to see what goes on around here. See y'all later.